and so excited to bring our last session to the stage as we welcome Emily Hampshire of Schitt and now an author herself. I have a feeling she might know a thing or two about what it takes to transition and be really the hero of your own journey as first an actress, now an author, and all the steps in between. And if you could tell us a little bit about what it's been like to be in so many different industries of so many different contexts and what it takes to really be you in all of those situations.
Well, a teacher changed my entire life and is the reason I became an actor or even became anything within myself. I was in high school and I wasn't a great student. We didn't have Kahoot back then, so I wasn't that interested in what we were learning in class, in math and just the basics and stuff. And I did a play after school. I had this tiny little part. And after the play, my high school vice principal, Ms. Swiderski, who I still talk to today, came up to me and said, "You were really good. You were really funny." That's all she said. And it was everything. Like, it totally changed my life.
Isn't that so cool that like that teacher who maybe was just giving like that gold star of confidence, I'm imagining it probably was true, but in the situation where it's like, here, let me just give like a few warm and fuzzies to this student and hopefully they feel excited off stage. And those like really offhand remarks are now decades later still so important and so true to what decisions you're making now.
Yeah, just to like you were talking about it before, I think Mark had mentioned it, to feel seen is everything, especially at that age. And to be seen for something, to me, it was like I was good at something for the first time. And I just went headstrong into acting. And from then on, it was that I had a purpose. And not only that teacher, I had so many other teachers who stayed after school with me and like read to me, because I didn't know at the time, but I was dyslexic and I couldn't get through books. And so they would read to me after school, and which is something I find now with my comic book. I love that sometimes kids who are dyslexic can get through the book so much easier, and they like feel successful like I used to feel
Totally.
when I could get through a comic book or a graphic novel. So yeah, I am obsessed with teachers. That's why I think I've forced you guys to have me as part of your good thing, because Nicholas Ferroni is an educator who I go to his high school a lot to talk with his students, and we played Kahoot. For the first time I played it, and he did a Canadian quiz, and I failed. All the students.
Kahoot can give you that. We hear from teachers all the time. In the Kahoot is when you fail or when you need to kind of whip up and build that progress, because when it really matters in assessments and conversations and presentations, we got you covered.
I love that. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, we're kind of the backup. We're helping build that foundation and reigns true to kind of whatever the experience might be. We hear teachers all the time talk about how Kahoot reaches students, learners, kids, family members, where they are, whether it's by like feeling comfortable with technology, that gamified and playful experience on Kahoot that feels familiar to the video game, or it's the, like in your case, maybe it would have been helpful to have those visual cues of pictures and graphics kind of aiding in that literacy experience. And cool to see kind of all of that come together as now advice from, and maybe teachers reading to you in those early years are now like, I would imagine that these teachers feel kind of responsible for, look at you now creating young adult graphic novels that really kind of tie that loop and build that whole foundation for other people who might be experiencing those literacy difficulties as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm actually seeing someone in the chat say that similarly, they like experienced dyslexia and how interesting and kind of impactful your education experiences, your classroom experiences can be. Someone else is saying that words have the power to bring really life to students. And my 5th grade teacher, they say, was one of that brought in their crazy ADD mind, and forever thankful to her. So really cool to kind of see that full picture. And I'm wondering now, seeing the other side of what it takes to create a graphic novel, bring characters to life, what has that experience been like for you as you're now planning like the literature and the reading experiences that are coming to kids that may have been in similar situations as yourself?
Well, quite honestly, it was at first a very selfish journey. I wanted to make this story. Well, I'll tell you a bit about the story. It's called Amelia Earwood, Basic Witch, and Amelia is the black sheep of her very famous witch family, who have gotten their own reality show, not unlike the Kardashians. And she gets kicked off the show because her magic is just a little off-brand for them, and it's not the kind of magic, it's basic magic. It's not their kind of magic. And what she ultimately learns is that she has her own special magic. And in writing this book, I felt like I got to go back and tell my younger self, like, everything you think is wrong with you or that you have to fix or change, that's your magic. Like, that thing is going to
I
be.
feel like you need to say it again for all the people in the back, that no matter, even if you're not a kid, like if this is, I know a lot of grownups are joining it too, like, speaks right to my heart.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's kind of selfish, because it did that for me. Because Amelia ultimately learns that, like, the thing she thought was bad about her is actually the thing that makes her special, that makes her stand out. And so in writing it, I did think about my younger self so much, and that's your superpower. Like, the thing you think is your flaw is your superpower. And so that journey for me in writing it, and also I mean, Amelia's not me. So she definitely has, she breaks the fourth wall a lot. Whenever she has anxiety, she goes into this kind of place called the void, and she talks to the reader. And that's something that I feel like I always have this need for, like, truth and a real connection, even when things are getting really anxious. And so I've kind of put all my therapy went into.
I was going to say, it sounds pretty therapeutic. It sounds like so much of that writing experience and self-discovery, maybe, and understanding identity, whether it's through writing a graphic novel or maybe in the work that teachers are doing as they see little versions of themselves meander into school every day. Kind of cool to identify and really understand, oh, this is my authentic self. This is my superpower. And I know we still have nearly 1,000 people joining in with us. And I'm wondering, as people are sharing in the comments, what are the superpowers, and I'll relay back to us for conversation, what are the superpowers that our educators and our people joining in from all over the world, maybe what they connect with as feeling so much of like their authentic self, whether it's, you were saying, like understanding what reigns true to you, how to tackle that fourth wall of anxiety, but also so much more than that. Maybe it's like, oh, I am an expert listener. I am a true empath, whatever that superpower might be. Dom says, teaching is my superpower. I use theater experience to teach middle school. Making everyone feel included is Hillary's superpower. And really cool to kind of see that overlap. Emily, what would you consider to be, and maybe this is like the call to action from everyone joining, that they need to read the Amelia Earwood book to know and kind of see that identity and true, what would you say that your like real authentic superpower might be?
Oh, wow. My authentic, I do kind of think I've learned that I think my superpower is being my most authentic self.
Authenticity. Yeah, I feel like that is so true.
Hear that from people on my Instagram and stuff. Whenever I hear something from somebody who they felt changed by something I said or whatever, it's always when I've been just the most honest and me. And usually that's something that affects other people whenever anybody's authentic, because then other people are like, oh my God, me too. And then you feel like, oh, that's okay. And honestly, I just have to say that teachers are superheroes. They have, their superpower is just being teachers. Like,
Amen. I mean, that's what our whole event has been about today. I see it on your background and my background too, that teacher with the Kahoot superhero cape. And there are so many different facets of what being a classroom and teacher superpower and superhero might be. Like people saying that they're not afraid to ask questions when they don't know the answer. Someone else saying how important it is to be silly and be goofy and relate to your students instead of being kind of that buttoned up, really formal relationship and presenter. How cool to know in your firsthand experience about what it means to like really show up as yourself, it not being a performance, even though you may have a little bit of experience performing and acting, but ultimately kind of bringing that wall down and just being you, and how powerful that can be.
Yeah, oh, I love that though, that teacher saying that saying their superpowers of just being themselves is such an influence. Like I feel like my teachers were the role models for me in my life, and I think a lot of people don't always have their family as role models, and to have a teacher who you look up to, and you look up to them because they're actually, like that one teacher said, they're asking a question when they don't know the answer. Like that is such a great thing to learn at a young age, that you don't have to like pretend you know everything. And yeah, I love teachers.
I'm like kind of channeling that teacher perspective and that teacher superpower identity. If you could now either into the future or go back in time and be a teacher for one day, what do you think you'd do to kind of impact your class and your community?
Oh gosh, I thought that was going to go another way. I thought you were going to let me go back in time and be a student again.
A follow-up question, take it whatever way you'd want. I think both perspectives are relevant here.
You know, I do think, if especially when I go visit classrooms now, which is one of my favorite things to do, is like a lot of the time I go visit classes and the students want to like perform something for me, or show me like some theater thing they've done or whatever. And it's actually so good for me to see what it was like as a beginner, when you wanted to show and you wanted to like, because I think as as an actor, you can sometimes get insecure in a way
Sure.
of you think actors should always be performing, and there's a certain like shift that happens when you become a professional actor, that it's there's a lot of anxiety with it. But like when I see students who are so the innocence of youth and wanting to just show themselves, so that is, if I could be a teacher for a day, I would love to just like celebrate them, like to watch anything they want to bring forth and be like, that is amazing. That, because every single kid I've met who shows me anything of themselves, it is amazing. It is. So
That's so special. And I feel like I was in the education space for many years, and there's so much pressure for teachers to build curriculum, differentiate, meet students where they are, that we sometimes kind of push to the wayside those moments of celebration, whether it's a big extravagant end of year reflection party, or it's just like your high school teacher after your theater production said, hey, good job. That was really awesome. You really surprised me in all the different ways that you were performing in this way, or celebrating this, or taking this risk. And that seems pretty feasible. That doesn't require any tech background. That doesn't require any lesson planning. Just party, just celebrate the success and the growth where it is. Meet students where they are in that celebration.
yeah.
Awesome. That is so fabulous. And I feel like a perfect way to kind of summarize and wrap up our event in saying that there are so many ways that we hope Kahoot kind of facilitates that celebration, but also always taking those moments in between, like Emily is sharing. That last kind of piece of advice and insight is that there's never not enough time to celebrate, whether it's those big moments and big achievements, or kind of the in between, and sharing that know-how and taking the risk of being authentic to you to kind of take that next step, whatever it might be in your journey.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what when you were saying, you know, what my teacher did, she literally just said, you were really good. You were really funny. Nothing elaborate. It takes like a second. And it doesn't have to be big. It's just that tiny moment was huge to me. It was everything.
That's
So
awesome. Emily, I'll give you your last tiny second then to share back with all of the thousands of educators that join in on the Kahoot EDU Summit every year. What would be like your last second piece of advice or celebration or kudos even to everyone joining in on our stream?
I mean, kudos. It really is. With Amelia Airwood, we've done a partnership with Donors Choose, which is this. I think a lot of teachers use this for what I didn't know was that teachers spend their own money on supplies. And that's something I would want to say to educators, that first of all, I can't believe that the people who don't get paid enough to teach children and change their lives are spending their own money on supplies, and thank God there's Kahoot that you can use that. So yeah, just the biggest kudos. I'm your biggest fan. I am every teacher's biggest fan.
Awesome. Thank you for leaving us with that, Emily. We started off with like the nitty-gritty PD session here today, and now we're wrapping up with so much inspiration and that heartfelt experience of what it means to be a passionate and impactful educator. And we are so thankful that you were able to join and leave us with those words of wisdom and kind of sum up all of what it means to be a part of Kahoot: curious, inclusive, playful, wrapped in one, being authentic and true to you in those celebrations. So thank you for leaving us with that, Emily. We so appreciate you being here.
Thank you. And thank you this is my first background ever, my first Zoom background. I actually had to Google, I'm like, why does it look backwards? But that's what happens.
You're front facing, you're good to go.
Front facing.
Yes.
I'm going to keep this on forever. I'm obsessed with the whale, and thank you for having me.